Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Monday Morning Murder Podcast. I am Faye Fire, and this is my lovely co host, Mandy, and we are here to discuss Yellowjackets Season 1, Episode 6, which is called Saints. And this is a really Lottie centered episode, and there's a lot of symbolism going on, actually, the more I was rewatching this up until basically the moment we went live. But yeah, so anyways, how are you doing this morning, Mandy?
Hey, good morning, Faye, or afternoon, wherever you're coming and tuning us in from. Hello, all you Yellowjackets enthusiasts, my citizen detectives, and all you fans. Let's get down. I'm doing good. We're getting ready for Christmas and many celebrations for the holiday. And I see you are too, with your beautiful tree behind you. The wilderness has come to you.
Yes. Well, I always keep a little bit indoors, I suppose. But it's hard to keep it out where I'm at. It's creeping in at all times. Anyways, well, cool. Yeah, I know. We're getting ready for Christmas too. It's a little bit of a stressful time of the year and kind of makes you want to run to the wilderness and just be like, no, we're not doing any of this.
All right.
Io Saturnalia, which is also happening right now. So,
well, we are the wilderness. It hears us and we hear it. So let's get down. I'm really excited about this episode, especially Saints, because I guess it kind of is in tuning to this holiday season as we're going into the Saints.
I kind of felt like this photo of Lottie was fitting for the holiday season, really kind of with the lights, the candles, maybe she's singing a little holiday tune in there, what Carol of the Bells or something of that nature.
Do you hear what I hear?
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Where's the parody when we need it, Mandy?
I have 3 actually that I'm working, but I'm trying to get one out by Christmas.
Maybe, you know what, next year, maybe we can hope for one of Mandy's infamous, holiday hours that's Yellowjackets themed this time, but we won't put the pressure on for this year, maybe next year.
Oh yeah, no, this year can't happen, but I am, if you know me, I am a huge holiday enthusiast, and I like to do with the Game of Thrones. I did Litmus, which is a Lit Bringers, or it's a Game of Thrones holiday spectacular, 1 hour long of parody and fun. But I definitely feel like we could do that for next year. Definitely, especially now we have a whole year to prepare.
Yeah, we can be having Christmas in July, just like probably Jeff does a store sale Christmas in July, who knows. And we'll be preparing. So we'll just have up the Christmas tree in the recording studio in the middle of summer.
Well, Jeff is my MPV or MPV. Jeff is my most valuable player for the Saints, by the way. Should throw that out there. He has the back. He has his wife's back. He's truthful. He's honest. He's wonderful. He tells it how it is. He stands up. That episode and then this scene right here was my favorite too. He's like, you know what? We did something right. So we got to be doing something right, Faye.
You know what's interesting about Jeff? Sorry, this was not where we were intending to start the stream, but
let's go.
But you know what's cool about Jeff too in this episode is we really get to see him in contrast to maybe, let's say, someone like Lottie's dad, who we see in this episode, where he's just not listening to his wife, not supportive, what he says goes kind of thing. And Jeff is very much the opposite of that, and so it's interesting that they did a nice contrast in that. I mean, Jeff really is. He's such a great husband. He's always got Shauna's back. The whole thing of just speaking up for her at the lunch finally, to where she felt validated and felt like she was more than just a replacement for Jackie, which is kind of how Jackie's parents always treated her. But anyways, we'll get more into that as we progress. But yes, Jeff he deserved it. He deserves a little shout out. So
MVP. MVP. MVP.
But so to kind of start out with, so this is a really like, well, actually, before we jump into it, there's a couple things I wanted to go over. There was an article this week. I think I can share this. Whoops. So an article from Variety this week that gave an update on season 3. So we're deep in the writing, and ads. Okay. So Ashley Lyle, Bart Nickerson, and Jonathan Lisco gave an update on the status of season 3 during a QA for SAG-AFTRA nomination committee members on Wednesday night. So Ashley says, we're deep in the writing. Everybody came back so incredibly enthusiastic, raring to go, and creatively invigorated. Without divulging any plot details, she said, we're having so much fun and are very excited about it. And that's pretty much the biggest update. There was a couple little comments from the cast and that kind of thing, but nothing, but I'm pretty excited to finally see an update on the show where we're like, oh, finally, see what they're up to. After the strike ended, Ashley posted a couple things and was like, yeah, we're getting back to it, and was super stoked. And so I'm so excited to see what they came up with, over that time, because like when you're forced to kind of take a break, especially when they're in sort of the limelight doing all the crazy planning for the series and all of that, they're kind of forced to take a break. Everyone in Hollywood was for several months during the strike. And so I'm sure they got plenty of time to brainstorm, even though they weren't supposed to be like writing on a professional basis or whatever. Like, I'm sure they were brainstorming. I mean, she and Bart are married, so I'm sure they were like sitting around having their morning coffee, like, oh, think about this, think about that. I read this really interesting story, actually. I'll share it with you. And I retweeted it the other day, and I at Ash Ann Lyle, that's her Twitter handle. But it was about this young girl, this 17-year-old girl who survived a plane crash in the Peruvian Amazonian rainforest. This was in 1971. So anyways, there was just like a lot of kind of similar overtones to it. She survived on her own for 11 days. She's 17 years old. I can't get my phone to open fast enough, so I'll just kind of tell you what I remember. I can't remember what her name was, but if you're on my Twitter, then it'll be on there. But anyways, so she survived the plane crash. Basically, the plane she was on got struck by lightning, and the plane just like disintegrated. And her little set of seats that she was in, they stayed connected together. And so they think that kind of acted like a parachute, which slowed her fall. So she fell, but she survived. And then she survived in the forest for like 11 days. She found her way to like a little fisher camp. And they had gasoline there. She like poured gasoline into a cut in her arm and like got rid of maggots and all kinds of crazy stuff. So anyways, it was just like a really intense story. And I was like, oh my God, that would be like excellent inspiration. Like, what if like one of the girls was out there surviving on her own, like a survivor from the plane crash that we don't even know? Like, don't you think season 3 would be an excellent time to sort of bring this like weird, mysterious person in, or maybe even Javi's friend or something like that? Which, I mean, I would think if it was like Javi's friend, she probably would be like, yeah, take me to the rest of the group. But I don't know. It's just something I'm just off on a tangent, just telling you guys about. I read about it. I thought it was interesting. Mull it over. Anyways, tra-la-la. The other thing that I just wanted to say is thank you to everyone who's been watching my latest video, which is cannibalism and sapphic love in Yellowjackets, House of the Dragon, and Jennifer's Body. And I worked really hard on that video, and it seems like it's really paying off because a lot of you guys are really liking it and giving me some awesome feedback. So I thank each and every one of you, if you're watching right now, for watching the video, and all my new subscribers and all of that. So thank you. And hello to the chat. Hey Christian, how's it going? Oh yeah, Juliana Kopke. Oh wait, is that you, Mandy? I think you're under Christian's account commenting. But anyway,
that isn't me.
Oh, it's that? Well, maybe it's Christian or a different Christian. Oh, it's Christian Garcia.
No, that's my Christian.
That's your Christian? Well, thank you. Thank
That's
you for
mine.
keeping notes. I appreciate it, Christian.
I'm not fooled by you. Nice try. You get no credit.
I saw, you know what? My husband, I realized he actually does watch our streams. I saw it in his history the other day. I was like, oh, what do you know?
Well,
you're not just poking fun at me all the time. Anyways,
I guess I'll give him a little bit of credit now. Thank you.
Well, and
thank
anyone
so
else
much.
who's watching right now, thank you for being here on your Monday morning. Hopefully we are keeping you entertained and we appreciate you watching. So drop a hello in the chat. Feel free to get involved and say hello. So all right. Well,
I'm pining over this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to say that was one of the most interesting things about this episode for me is when Jackie's talking to Shauna during Shauna's flashback of the 90s. And then Jackie says, don't tell Jeff I'm pining over him, which pining specifically means you suffer mental or physical decline, especially because of a broken heart.
Mm-hmm.
And how perfect for this was it, like when you suffer literally mentally and physically because someone hurts your heart or you have a broken heart, which with Jackie and the heart necklace, with all the stuff and the symbolism of heart, with when Lottie is being baptized and she's welcoming Jesus into her heart, and all of the heart symbolism. So that beyond Christmas pines, pining the wilderness was the most thing that was like made me really think. And I started just putting together all of the connections because, miss and the long for the return of is another definition of pining for my boyfriend, and you miss and the long for the return of the wilderness, the return of no return, no reason. What's going on? So I just want everyone to think about that.
I thought that the wording there was also really interesting. And I thought because they're supposed to be like a little bit younger, it's like a flashback to when they're probably like maybe 13 or something. And I was like thinking to myself, I'm like, I don't think that 13-year-olds are really using that lingo, saying they're pining for someone. That's just like not really. So I felt like it was a very deliberate choice in the wording. Of course, it was appropriate, but it was kind of funny. I thought about that too. And I did see like some major like you were saying with Lottie and all of that, like everyone's kind of going through this shift. And especially considering last week's episode, which we saw so much of like the Callie, Jackie parallels. There's sort of like the reincarnation vibes going on. And I really was starting to notice as this episode went on that there's kind of like, it's almost like the symbol. Okay, the symbol with the the symbol that's on my shirt. We can see this like applying to everything that's going on in the situation in this episode, because Shauna and the hook symbolism is like really present, especially with like her. I'm going to try and use YouTube appropriate wording, so we can't use the A word because they're kind of funny about it. But ending her pregnancy. But then with this, and Mandy and I have talked about this a lot, like what the symbol actually means. But, when we see this as maybe like a sun, like the sun ascending, and we can see that like Lottie is, in her baptism, she's sort of like ascending into the light, sort of, or even like what Laura Lee says. She says, let your faith in him be your guiding light. And so I really feel like this is when Lottie kind of steps into that sun position, contrasted with Shauna and all of like her hook symbolism, the kind of death underworld symbolism going on. But then when we consider that interwoven with Jackie and her like life and death, like there's just so much going on. There's so much going on. Especially considering also this is the episode where they have the chicken dream, which is like, it's so crazy, but it's also Shauna eating, and there's like the baby, there's food, there's life and death. It's all sort of interwoven throughout this episode where those things are all intermixed. And so we're really getting the hints, the foundation of this idea of like Jackie equating to food, and the baby equating to death. There's sort of these, it's like a chain or a cycle, which I think is like in the triangle of this, the sort of the descent, the search, and the ascent, or life, death, rebirth sort of symbolism. So we can go into that even more if you guys are interested. But of course, we only talk about it like every week and crazy in depth during our big Greek special that we did. So if you guys want to see that, definitely check it out.
The juxtaposition too with the scening and the scene development, as we're getting a rebirth, and then we're getting the possible destruction of her child, and then we're seeing her stop because they're choosing life in all the realms, in all aspects. They're choosing a new birth. They're choosing to be born, to give way to the birth. They're choosing to accept it, which I think is something too that's particular. It's like they're becoming their own saints. Mm-hmm. And the cheeseburger baby or not, she's here for it.
Well, and I saw this really great thing. I saved it from Twitter this week, but I thought it was perfect because, they call this episode Saints. Let me see. Hold on. Let me present this. Do it. Thing. I'm not prepared. Shauna. 1. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm really prepared here. But okay, so there's the episode's titled Saints, and then we look back to episode 1 where Jackie's sort of making fun of Shauna. She's like, I like the Saints, they were all so tragic. And then we flash forward to the death, argument. They'll never know how tragic and boring and insecure you really are. So like the tragedy of Jackie it's what projects her into like saint status, I guess we might say. So anyways, I just thought that was really interesting. Okay. Well, let's get into this. Let's get right into this. So, this episode has a lot of Lottie. It's very Lottie centered. There we have kind of her flashback to her childhood, where we see that she prevented the car accident with her family. And she reminds me so much of my autistic daughter. Let's be so for real. Like my daughter just screams like craziness. Thankfully, maybe she saved us from car accidents. Who knows? Like she may have premonitions like that. But I thought it was really interesting. And I know I'm not the only person that had, in that beginning of that scene, I'm so sorry. My neighbor's dog is barking a lot. So if you guys can hear that, I apologize. Trying to concentrate here. So they talk about the Exxon Valdez oil spill that happened in Prince William Sound. So that's what's playing on the radio as they're kind of approaching the red light there. And so the voiceover says the wildlife in Prince William Sound was drastically damaged, and the local industries and communities. And then Lottie's dad is sitting there like complaining about how they're going to be the ones who end up footing the bill at the gas pump and that kind of thing. Is Lottie's dad in the oil industry, or is he just like commenting on, current affairs? Like, what are your thoughts, Mandy? Do you think there's any significance between those?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that with Lottie, I feel like all of her visions and stuff, I mean, I'm into that. And I think that there are prophets, and I think that there are people who receive visions, especially from God, especially from stuff. And then even with the saints, like in the Bible, it talks in Psalms about saints are people who feed their body to the beast of the world. Their living flesh becomes part of the embodiment and body to feed all of God's beasts and children, regardless. So there's a lot to it. And then most of the saints are people who were prophesied against, or who had prophecies. So with all of this and rewatching it a bunch of times, like I was feeling really spiritual with it. And I was like, you know what? There is really something with that heart, with giving her true heart and being able to, whether she gets called crazy, whether she gets thrown at, like, I can't deal with you crazy right now, as Ty says, or her father says to her. There is something about once you open your heart, you know, you get prophecies like that, or some people have it and they are completely misunderstood. They're never clear. You never exactly know what's going on. They're confusing. And then the only person who is able to discern them, if they're truth or not, is if you, as Laura Lee says, give your life or give your heart, and then that will help you discern the truth. So it's a catch-22, isn't it?
What's interesting also is she has all the stag symbolism throughout this episode, but another word for stag is heart. So that's like perfect, actually. I was kind of trying to toy with like what's the significance of that, but that kind of ties it all together.
Yeah, it's really all about your heart, and then that's where you find this otherly realm, supposedly, when you become a Christian, or when you become in a religious vessel of these prophets.
The pathway to like the other world, kind of thing.
I mean, and then again, I love the whole part of it. Once you qualify your heart, then you're able to discern. Is it the truth? Is this real? What am I seeing? Most of the time, prophets didn't understand. And it took years of praying or months and times and years, and just like other things happening for you to realize what certain meanings and significance were. So, and also, if you talk Carl Jung and you talk about, or Jung, and if you talk about how schizophrenia patients see a lot of different visions, that's another thing too, which we see in the future with Lottie and her parents, and kind of some scenes that interpret where she has mental issues like schizophrenia. But one common thing was that they all saw similar visions and symbols, and like symbols of a greater consciousness, of something more than just us. So it's a I can't tell you right or wrong. It depends on your personal beliefs, but it's really interesting to see all the different aspects of this episode once we went back, and I've rewatched it a couple of times now, and then they're all just hitting me different every time I watch them too. So I don't know about you, but like I just like to keep an open mind when I'm doing it, and keep an open mind with all of the different philosophies that we're putting out there.
Yeah. No, I agree. I definitely think that the colors, there's like a shift happening with the colors. I also noticed like with, well, especially with Lottie, because, you know, she started out wearing so much pink and that kind of thing. Then she's kind of getting more into the yellow. She's almost like getting more bright. And then like when she has her baptism, she's wearing like white. So it's like that purity, that pure mind. She's also, got the scar on her forehead really noticeably, that from bashing her head onto the thing, where so she's got a lot of go ahead.
Let me point about that though, the scar particularly. And also, like, I read recently in the Bible, it was talking about, because I've been reading all about this stuff, and now of course when I want to talk about it, it's called kind of mixing up, but there is the mark on the forehead. They said that the servants of the beast and the servants of God, you know, the prophets you'll be able to know a prophet, you'll be able to know the chosen ones, which is a huge thing right now in today's media. They have marks on their forehead, and I have one too. I like to think I am. I don't know. I've given my heart personally, so I hope so. But yeah, so like this whole thing, I read that verse this week actually, and then I saw it today when I was rewatching the episode this morning. Like, she has the mark on her forehead, so maybe she is a prophet. Like, this is true. I really believe it. So
yeah, I think they're really making it like a very obvious. And then it's interesting because, you know, when she smashed her head upon the glass, she was like sort of under the influence of the nature spirit, or, you know, the god of that place, as she refers to him. And so, or just dead cabin guy spirit. We're not really sure. Jacques. It was Jacques. Yeah. But then on the flip side, you know, she goes to Laura Lee, and Laura Lee kind of reinforces that idea that she's a prophet as well. So yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned that, Mandy, where it could be in service of the devil or in service of God. And I don't know, it's really interesting. It is
Well,
interesting.
and then beyond that, like Lottie, the thing is I think that she wanted to, she tried, and Laura Lee had the pathway marked by a Christian, right? But Lottie doesn't really quite know, and it's more than just like give your heart. But was she really giving her heart? I think she was more so giving fear. And when you give fear, like, you're not supposed to be giving fear, you're supposed to be giving trust and faith. But Lottie was more afraid than anything. And when you give fear, that's one of the agents of the devil or the beast or Baal and the sons of Baal. And they live in fear and they live in these things. And so it could be both. And it could be also like with Baal is like another symbol for like Jezebel. And again, I really believe that a lot of storyline with Lottie and when during Doom Homecoming is very Jezebel inspired. So yeah, it's both. I feel like they're opening both here. I mean, once you open that veil, once that veil's lifted, you're opening the veil, period, whether it be for good or evil. Or, some people think that there's no difference. Like it's all the same. Like they can
Well, and
intertwine.
it's like Lottie is she's a pure vessel, and she doesn't really have any grasp on her like abilities or anything because they've been suppressed for all these years because her dad was like, no, we're taking her to a psychiatrist, we're putting her on medication, and completely like suppressing these abilities that she had, we're making her normal, quote unquote. And then now that she's out in the wilderness and all of those abilities are like coming to light, and puns and then she's really sort of struggling to have to understand what it is, because this is a whole new reality for her. She's sort of been living in sort of like a fuzzy reality, I would imagine, and now things are becoming like really crystal clear to where she's receiving these visions, these messages, and she doesn't really know how to react to all of that or what anyone else is going to think of it either. So, but of course she goes to Laura Lee, which I think is awesome. They have such a beautiful relationship, and Laura Lee, she hears her out, and like Laura Lee is not passing judgment on like where those visions or anything like that's coming from. But then like Lottie has that moment where she sees Laura Lee with like the fire behind her, and that's definitely, as we know, foreshadowing. But Laura Lee's like, oh, that's the spirit, So it's interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, I really feel like, again, she did give it up. Sorry, I gotta fix my hair. She gave it up in a way that she was fear and she just didn't know any better, because like we see Lottie, giving up her body to Shauna later on. And there's also like more verses about like the people who appear to be more righteous, that they're disobeying and they're actually opening themselves up to the devil in different ways because they are not supporting the things that God grows. They're supporting the things that like the basic principles of the world instead, which they submit to those rules. Like, and it's really interesting how they play it so beautifully on the line where it's like, it could be both, but that's how it is. That's how like a lot of prophets and Baal gets you and all this stuff. So it was very just
well, yeah,
beautiful.
even like,
I don't want to go like into a huge like Christian religious teaching about it,
but even like Jesus Christ, they there's still certain religions that don't believe that he was the true prophet. They question what his motives were, or was he just, I think they're even making a movie about this actually that's coming out soon. It's called like the Book of Terrence, I want to say, or I could be completely wrong on that, but anyways, it's basically about like like basically the time of Jesus, and then this guy like is sort of a false prophet, and he's like, I want to be famous like Jesus, I want to get like his, I think it's got the guy that's in The Changeling, anyways, and it's got Tom Glenn Carney in it, which egg on the second. I love that little blonde
Well,
twink.
Jesus
Anyways.
didn't want to be famous. Like, many are called, few are chosen. Yeah. And beyond that, it's like, yeah, the prophet will never be accepted in his own home, in his own town. And prophets are told to move cities, told to move away, told to do stuff. And many will oppose, and nobody will really listen. And the fact that Lottie gets all these people to listen to her is kind of a catch-22 in that situation. Is she working really? What powers is she working for?
What did Bart say? Just be like cool Jesus.
So hey, that's words for me. I like it.
Words to live by. All right. Well, let's see. Let me see. Was there anything else about Lottie that we wanted to touch upon? We kind of talked about. Yeah, I think we pretty much talked about everything. The only thing I did want to kind of like suggest, or maybe ask you guys in the chat, what are your thoughts? Clearly, like Lottie, so she has this prophetic vision of these tunnels, right? And this is while she's being baptized. And so it's like this whole tunnel system, which is like, where are you conjuring this up from? It's got the stag. She sees the stag down there with the shedding antlers. Or maybe he didn't have the shedding antlers. Either way, no, regardless.
He had the shedding antlers, yeah.
Okay. And
the water.
And he guides her. And it's like right when Laura Lee's saying, let your faith in him be your guiding light. So then we kind of go back to like, is the stag more representative of like the wilderness or the wilderness god? Obviously, like, well, I talked about in my first Yellowjackets video, like wilderness. I mean, the word deer is a derivative of wilderness, like wild deer. Like that's what it's all like broken down to. Sorry, my words are really wording right now. But anyway, so like the deer, the stag is really representative of sort of the king of the forest, or perhaps the god of that place, as Lottie would perceive him. And so when she's following him, her faith in him being her guiding light, he takes her through this tunnel system. He takes her to this sort of altar where she's lighting candles and that kind of thing. And so what's up with the tunnels, guys? Do you think this is going to become something that is present? Do you think we're going to refer back to Lottie's visions from this episode? Do you think Lottie's going to remember it, perhaps in season 3 and have it become a part of it? Because now they don't have a cabin. They don't have a home. And so they don't have shelter. And that's extremely dangerous in the middle of winter. So I really think that we might end up coming back to these tunnels or to this vision. What are your thoughts, Mandy?
So yeah, I thought about that too. I think that they don't exist. Like I really do, because there's so many forums and things that I've read in Yellowjackets that everyone's like, what about these tunnels? Are they going to go live? Do these tunnels there? And no, I really think that they were just part of her vision, part of her prophetic wandering there. Also, the wilderness in the Bible, and the wilderness is like just described as a state of chaos. It's where the Israelites, like they go lost, and they're lost in the wilderness, and they're told to give their trust to God and their hearts to God and all these things. And the deer is also represented too. And then by doing so, they will receive God's grace, and they will be able to make their food and live in a fertile land. And there's so much about the wilderness as well that, I just can't help but see all this Christian light. And now that I'm reading and seeing all these things, and I'm loving it. But I also think that like these wells, these man-made tunnels in Lottie's mind, they could be symbolic for what we were talking about earlier, is that like she's giving herself into this like man-made conception of the wilderness. And here in the middle of her prophetic dream, she's seeing this light, this spirit, right? Because the spirit can help you either way. But it's just really interesting that I don't think that they're there. Like I don't know where people got, or why people got this to be a actual physical thing out there, because is clearly in as she's being dunked and brought back up. It's just a sight. I don't think it exists. That's just me personally.
I think what a lot of people think is that it could be that could be the purpose of why the cabin was even there to begin with. Like it was perhaps they're there like mining, or it's whatever they're doing in that area. There I think people like there's a lot of drilling and that kind of thing, like fracking or whatever going on in that area. And with the reference from Lottie's dad talking about, the Exxon Valdez, like oil spill. So there's like a lot of mining and that kind of thing going on, especially like back in the 90s where it was a little more unregulated. And that's kind of plays into other things that happen throughout the series, like when we see the Red River and that kind of thing. Could that be like mineral runoff and that sort of thing? So there's a lot of questions as to like maybe they were doing mining under there, and even that the symbol could be indicative of that, like where it's on the trees, that could be some kind of map or something like that. That's what a lot of people have questioned. And it does kind of make sense.
I've heard that too. It does make sense, but it's like, we've decided all this based on what? The yellow and the rock, like the sulfur, which could be lots of different ways, the sulfur mines, but we have no evidence of more mines. Like there's not. And then the symbol, I mean, that's a long catch-22. So I don't know how I don't say it's not happening, but I just don't really think that those mines are actually there. I just don't. I think that they're in her mind. I feel like there could be the tunnel, the trees there. I believe that. Mm-hmm. I believe the symbols are definitely there. The sulfur runoff, that area is, where they did a lot of that. I believe that's there. But despite this one scene, there's been zero evidence beyond.
That's really true. You would kind of think, I mean, if the cabin were some sort of home base for that, why is there just the one cabin guy?
Yeah, it would be more, or it would be a little, if it was a minor base, I mean,
true that.
It would be more than what it is.
It would be a little more established, probably be like on a map, although it's not like they have a map, but it would perhaps be a little more established. I could be wrong though, because you know what? I live in Alaska and there's all kinds of weird stuff that happens like that here, like where there's like no rhyme or reason, or just, little like crazy settlements that people have set up. So I don't know. Or even old mining, settlements that are just completely abandoned. So it's difficult to say. It's one of those little pieces of the puzzle. It's kind of like how in the last episode, there was the whole thing with Natalie watching like the UFO show, and it was like, oh, in the Northwest is the most,
the triangle, right?
So
the triangle.
It's kind of like, are they just dropping breadcrumbs as to possibilities of what?
I think so.
I don't know.
I think so. But that's why I said I don't think that this is real, because like I get all the breadcrumbs from other stuff, but this is the only time we see that, and it's clearly during a prophetic kind of vision of hers, or prophetic or not, it's just a vision of hers, and that's it. So, but some people look at it as like, oh well, the scene is there, so it's happening, this is the truth, but it was just a vision. And I mean, I get all the theory, I understand how it all interconnects. Trust me, if anybody can interconnect anything, it's me. I'll interconnect everything. I like it, but rewatching it, and as I went back and actually literally citizen detective it, I find less and less argument that that's the theory. Personally, I just feel like it's more of her dream. And now what I want to know is, why is she dreaming of underground tunnels like that anyway? Is that a mine? To me, that's not a mine. That's an underground tunnel of maybe some sort of locked up thing that happened to her during her childhood while she was in a home, or someplace that her father put her, something like that. Maybe she's got stuck like that. That rings more true to my theories versus that, because if they were up in some underground mine, you're not going to have cement brick walls like that. It's not going to be exactly how that was. It's going to be more different, especially up in the middle of nowhere, Canada. You're not having cinder bricks and water and that retaining
it could be sort of like, yeah, I like what you're saying here, where she's sort of been, her mind has sort of been imprisoned for all those years, because since she was
drowned out. That's why there's water everywhere.
And her dad's just like, this is what's happening, and that's final. And like, he's not, and so she was sort of locked up in a prison, like her true gifts and her true abilities. And like, even her mom was trying to defend her and say, there's things in this world that are beyond your understanding and that kind of thing. But I like that the medication is sort of putting her in a prison, and then she finds her way out by following the pathway of the deer. So there is a lot of,
and she lights her candle, her prophetic dream. She lights the light inside of her, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, to come back. And when it does, it not only does it light, it boom, it catches fire. It catches a huge explosion of fire. And it talks about that too, like prophets will have fire in their tongues, burning coal in their mouth. That a huge flame of fire, they'll explode. So it's very interesting that I think that it's more of a metaphor of her powers being chambered and locked down in the dwells in the damp, dark places of her heart.
I like it. I don't know. I can see it going either way. I wouldn't hate the tunnel storyline becoming a thing, especially as they become more desperate, because I have to imagine season 3 is just going to be like, there's going to be some desperation. And I have a lot of ideas of like what it could lead to anyways, just based on like historical things like the Donner Party and that sort of thing. But
tunnel visioned. Are you tunnel visioned by it?
Right. Yeah. Anyways. But so I don't know, all the stuff with Lottie, she has a lot going on. The poor dear. This whole scene with like her parents arguing and she just watching from the outside, and that's so much of her experience, and we don't hear her speaking as a child. And so like, again, going back to like my daughter specifically, like she reminds me so much of little Lottie, because my daughter, she's autistic and she's nonverbal, but she screams. Like she just doesn't use her words so well at all, but she'll scream, and that really like gets the point across. But you can see this sort of like, I don't know, just there's a light inside of them where they know, even if they're not talking, there's something more going on underneath the surface. So anyways, okay. Hello, S Roses and Mrs. Duncan the Tall. Thank you guys for being here. I hope everything goes well with your little boy there, S Roses. Okay. So shall we move on from Lottie and maybe talk about Nat real quick, and just sort of, there's this shot that I just really love, because I feel like I have so many things to say about it. Hold on, let me pull it up here. I don't know why my things are not being very smooth today. Okay. So we have Nat. I love this shot. You were talking about the costumes, or like the transition of their clothing, right? This shot here just says so much to me. Jackie is like their queen right now. Okay. The yellow shorts. She's in the light. She's the sun. She's the queen. She's the captain. She's the one that's been in charge. But as we know, as the show progresses, Natalie becomes the new queen. And throughout this episode, I just thought it was so interesting, because Jackie's wearing this stripy black shirt. Natalie's wearing the stripy black and white pants. And then later when they show adult Natalie, she's wearing black and white striped, like a t-shirt while she's like loading her gun or whatever. And then like later when she's out with Kevin, she's wearing that outfit. And so so,
with the fishnets and everything and the booze. I was like, man, this outfit is, I love how they put that outfit on her. It was a lot.
What I loved about this too, and like especially considering the way that they use so much of like the kind of old TV effects or whatever in the editing, and like as we know, like in the intro stuff. It's like heavy, but I feel like it's really coming through with their outfits here because it's like lines, it's like squiggle lines, and they're sort of fading in and out of each other. And then with the lighting here, like I love these photos from this scene because they really capture the lighting that's coming through on these two. And it's just like, there's just so much imagery going on between these two. And of course they're fighting. And I also find it really interesting that later in the episode, when it's Shauna, when she goes to the hotel and she sees Nat, and they're immediately like at each other's throats. It's like, you look like shit. No, well, same back, right back at you. And Ty has to kind of step in and be like, whoa, chill out. And so there's this thing with like the queens, the queen bees. It's just like Lottie said, they come in, they attack the other one, and then the new queen takes over. And so we see this like happening with Jackie and Nat, and then later with Nat and Shauna, and we know how that all plays out. So any thoughts on that, or is that just me like nerding out on their costumes? Because I can do that.
No, it's cool. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree.
But otherwise, so Nat's been out hunting. And that's another thing I also like about this scene, because even though it seems like Jackie's kind of being like bitchy, you know, and she and Nat are like going at each other because she says, oh, is this why we don't have any food? Is because you're out trying to become mayor of Pound Town or whatever. Because Nat, instead of hunting, she and Travis have been over at the other plane just making out with each other. And granted, there's some stuff to that too, and we'll get to that. Well, no, let's get to it now. Okay, one thing I noticed, like, let's consider the scene of Nat and Travis making out and him, sorry, we're going to be a little graphic here, but his gentle touch, we might say, where to the point where Natalie's like, that tickles, right? But as a contrast to Jackie and Jeff in the opening scene when they're making out, and Jeff's like, he's really the one going for Pound Town, mayor of Pound Town, with his not so gentle touch, we might say. It's just a funny contrast, like, of those two men, and just whatever. Anyways. But yeah, so what I thought was really interesting here is like that Nat, you know, she and Travis have been out making out and everything. And so when Jackie is calling her out about it, I mean, let's be so for real. If they had been out focused and not just like messing around, if they'd been really trying to get food, Jackie is the one who becomes the food because they weren't applying themselves. You know, and granted, they're probably not going to have found something that's going to keep them together, you know, keep them alive for like the winter. But it is an interesting point to be Jackie's the one that's like, hey, you guys aren't focused. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And she's the one that ultimately pays for it, really. So.
Well, I mean, again, she's the saint because her body ended up feeding them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she didn't know. She just, the thing is, it's like, I don't know if I want to call her a saint because it was because of her corrupted and bratty nature and stubbornness that she ended up freezing to death and being eaten anyway. But it is what it is. Run, Aaron, run. Run, Jackie, run. But anyway, I do actually think, though, since I'm leading you all here, I got really nervous all of a sudden. But let's just go with it. This whole dynamic between Nat and Jackie is something to point out, because what happens during this situation is Jackie's very scornful about Nat and her behaviors and accusing her of, you know, sleeping with Travis, doing all these things, but really she hasn't yet. And Jackie's the one who ends up taking Travis's virginity. So that actually really ticked me off about all things and about everything that we're talking about here, because that was, as Lottie says, that was not meant for you, Jackie. And she takes her man, and she is jealous. And maybe Nat was right here. You're just jealous because you're a prude. I actually like really support Nat here. because Jackie just comes off there like thinks she knows everything. She doesn't know anything. And yeah, she might have fed them anyway, but she didn't even know she was doing that. She was actually just being a rude, stubborn brat.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe or maybe Nat, or maybe Jackie had her own premonitions. You know, maybe she just knew like something was. She's like, you know, and that's part of her being like the captain, right? She's like, you're supposed to be doing, which is funny because she's like the worst at she's good at delegating, but she's not good at actually partaking and doing her tasks. And we saw that a lot last week. But
I'm a manager, and I used to be like very hardworking and do it. But after years of being able to tell people and help them, I'm not good at finishing tasks either. I will really admit that, because it's just, I stopped having to do the task by myself. I always had someone there. So then when it became time for me to do it by myself, it's hard. But I realized that.
Sorry. If I have run back and forth a couple times, I do apologize. I have kids home for Christmas break, so I might be doing a little bit of chaos streaming, but
are we in the wilderness?
Yeah, the wilderness is in my son big time. He's acting a fool for the last few days, but anyway, so speaking of sons acting a fool, I wanted conversation. So we have like Travis and Coach is like, you know, hey, and he pulls Travis aside and he's like, look, the last thing we need out here is a baby.
Meanwhile, Shauna.
What a funny irony. So he says, you know, here, Travis, here is a handful of condoms. And Travis is like, we're only going to Seattle for like a week. And Coach is like, that's none of your business.
Wait, okay. How many, if you're seeing this later in the chat, whoever, do we think it was Travis's dad?
Mm-hmm.
Was it him? I mean, do we think the coaches were doing it? I know we talked about it before. I think it's a really good thing that, I mean, it makes sense, right? It just does.
I definitely think so. You know, so we had a theory. If you guys haven't been watching the last or the other episodes, our theory is that Coach Ben and Coach Bill were having an affair. And that was like the source of contention between, you know, Travis's family. Coach Ben and Coach Bill were, gonna have their little love affair on the soccer vacation. I don't know, whatever. In Seattle, you know, where the gays are. I'm from Seattle. I'm not gay, but that's where the gays are.
But are you though? Because I feel like our best friendship, you cannibalize a lot of me.
Maybe. I mean,
I feel like maybe you just don't know yet.
Maybe I just want to admit it. I don't know. I'm like in Shauna's closet now. But anyway, so no, but those two. So I definitely think that they were having an affair. I just think that it's so obvious. Like the more that we watch this and kind of analyze that situation and just what was going on with them, it's just crazy. It's interesting. And I like it. I like this idea that those two were having an affair. It just makes things a little more interesting. You can kind of see some contention between Travis and Coach. Like, I feel like Travis kind of knows, but like, and that's why he also hated his dad so much, because like we saw in that scene with them in the pilot, like their mom. You know, so standoffish. And so I would imagine like Travis probably knows, and that was part of the reason he hated his dad. And, you know.
Well, I think that he knows that like his mom or that his dad's having an affair, but I don't think he understands that he might be gay. I think he like doesn't put it together, because it just wasn't so openly in 1996. I mean, you know, it just wasn't really talked about like that.
Yeah. Sorry.
And then his mom, it's funny because like when Coach Martinez goes to kiss his wife, she's just like,
mm-mm. Yeah, she doesn't want anything to do with it.
I know that feeling.
Ball bag that he's putting in the car. No,
Don't
you
touch
take your
me.
balls out of here. So yeah, I just thought it was a funny thing to point out, like that, you know, he's the one who ends up sort of becoming like the dad to him. So we don't have any solid stuff. I found this book. There's like a book series about, anyways, never mind. We're not even going to get into it. Okay. Cause I don't think that's
No, you started it.
Okay. Well, there was this, I was trying to just look up. I was just like, this is how I find things. This is how I find theories. So I'm like looking up Bill and Ben. Are Bill and Ben gay? Anyways, there was this guy.
Did you Google are Bill and Ben gay?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I got to do it right now.
Well, so there's this guy. I can't remember exactly what his name is. His name is Bill something or another. And he wrote a book series that is about, there's one of the, something Ben. Anyways, Ben is the main character of his second book, but the series is about these gay boys that are like, you know, kind of they go to maybe boarding school or something like that. These two boys kind of fall in love. The second book is about one of the, you know, the first one's about one of the boys. The second one's about the other boy. The second one is about Ben, and Ben is like trying to develop like a relationship with a girl, but really he doesn't really like her. He likes the boy. He's still in love with the other boy. And so I just thought it was like kind of a funny parallel. I have absolutely no clue if it's any point of reference to Yellowjackets, but this is how we come up with theories.
Okay.
Right?
Bill and Ben, the flower pot man. Is that what you're talking about?
No, that wasn't it.
No, but there's like a TV show or something about Bill and Ben. Bill and Ben, the flower pot men. Oh man, now you've opened up a whole new can of worms. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, we'll study. We'll see what we can find about gay Bill and gay Ben over the next few weeks. We'll come back with some concrete,
like some sort of. Yeah, this has to become some sort of something, because now it's like a whole.
I'm pulling this thread. I'm gonna prove this.
There were Bill and Ben in a bed with little weed, with the little weed, the flower pot men. What were they smoking? It's a kids TV show, Rainbow and Homosexual Agenda. Shocker. I'm reading from the Register. The Magic Roundabout, about LSD and the Rainbow in the Camp. Okay, so I'm just like reading stuff off of things, but anyway, I think we're gonna have to look into it.
This is
the Magic Roundabout.
If you guys are aware of this or have any thoughts on this, if you've read books, if you have sources, let us know. Are we onto something here? All right, so going to the adults. Now, this is really the first time, I mean, other than Misty and Nat coming together, like this is really the first time that they've all kind of come together. So they have Shauna come over to the hotel, which, by the way, the motel is called 2400 Court, which I thought was kind of interesting because the flight number is 2525. So I was like, is there something there? Is there a connection there? And so anyways, they all go over to Natalie's hotel room, have a little run-in with Randy. He's going
through my gosh
horses.
Cheaper to keep him.
He's so crazy. He's just such a crazy guy.
But like, how good of a liar was he there? He's just like, oh, Shauna, what are you doing here? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, what am I doing here? Never mind that. Because really, he was like,
good point,
helping Jeff the whole time.
I don't know why that didn't work for me.
Is Jeff there at the hotel too, while they're getting ready to embark on this fuego of intermission and this whole thing? Like, are they watching them? How do they know where everyone is? Are they watching that?
That is a really good point that I had not. You know, we should. I mean, I don't think Shauna is dumb enough to miss her own car in the parking lot there, but
I do. Oh, stop! disagree on that one because Shauna is just
Google her own self.
Strictly dumb, self-deprecating. She's self-destroying. She's literally texting her boyfriend in front of her husband. Oh, well, I'll find something to do. She's not paying attention to anything. She keeps a gun in her car. Like, I mean, let's go. No, I have to disagree 1,000% on that one.
All right, you're right. Maybe she is dumb enough. Maybe we're also dumb enough.
I do stuff like that too sometimes, you know, and we all do. So, but still, she's like literally, no, she don't care. She's only thinking about herself right here.
I'm gonna have to rewatch and see if we see Jeff's car in the parking lot of the motel, because that would be hilarious if she's like standing there talking to Randy, and what if he's like diverting her attention or something like that? What if the car is like right behind them? I don't know. That's hilarious. I had not even thought about that, but that's a task. It's on the list. So they got these postcards. Shauna is the only one who didn't get the postcard. She's looking at the postcard like, oh my God, like what the hell? And you know, it's funny because like we know that Shauna has kept her journals, which I think she kind of lied to everyone else and said that she had gotten rid of all of that. Like they have no evidence and all of that. So really, like, it would have to be one of the other survivors, which they say, you know, it's one of the others, or it would have come from her notebooks. And so I think she's, you know, the wheels are turning, like that moment where she's standing in the kitchen, the wheels are really turning, like she's like, is this coming from me? And I do wonder if she figured out that it was Jeff before she says anything, or if she even suspects him. But again, going back to like, maybe she's just not that smart. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving her more credit than she deserves because I love her.
She is smart, but I think that she like thinks Jeff is so stupid he couldn't.
Yeah. She doesn't ever think he could outsmart her.
She does not give Jeff the credit he deserves.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have to point out that like compared to the beginning of our streaming this show where you hated Jeff, and I was like, you gotta love him better than he does, because you did. You weren't for him. You were not.
No,
you did not.
Himbo, you know, but
I'm gonna go back and bring it up. Don't make me. But there were times
I'm gonna make you, because I think I've always liked Jeff. He's a bit of a himbo. He's kind of a dork.
Yeah,
but also, you know, I think also the more that I rewatch too, I kind of like Adam less. You know, because even though he's like a pretty face and everything, I just feel like his words are hella like hollow, and he's just kind of like just one of those guys. And you know, I do think he may have like ulterior motives in his interest in Shauna, but that's like a whole other kind of that funnels into like another theory that has to do with like Lottie, because I think that he might be connected to Lottie, but and sort of like preying on Shauna, because we do see in this episode, he goes after Shauna so hard. And it's like, dude, you know that she's pregnant, or not pregnant. You know that she's married, maybe pregnant, but, but you know that she's married, you know, she has a family, you know, and he's just texting her like relentlessly. And it's like, dude, it's really interesting the way that he just zeroes in and goes so hard after her when he knows that she has these things that are like real life issues that maybe he doesn't grasp because he's just a guy. But also I think anyone, it's not something like remarkable to request if you're having an affair with someone that you're fully conscious you're having an affair with. Be mindful of things and not be texting them relentlessly, you know?
Well, that's something that also came in my head when I saw the texts and she ignoring them or kept getting them. I'm like, man, this is not cool. Like, if you are having an affair, why is he doing that? And I just think he just doesn't care. I think he like feels true love. He's like, love is hopeless and I'm an artist and I found somebody that I can connect with who sets me free. She's my embodiment muse. I need her. And obviously he was obsessed. Look at all the photos of her, his art room. Oh my, he was obsessed with her.
I don't think so. I don't know if we've talked about
it. Was his muse. She was his muse. And then she also took him as her muse. Like she, and like, you know what I mean? Like she instigated too. It was both. But I don't think that they put boundaries in the beginning. And that's part of the problem. There were no boundaries set. They didn't have that conversation. And boundaries aren't there unless you have a time to sit and talk to someone or say, this is what I like, this is what I don't. And I'll freely admit, people have told me I've crossed boundaries, but I'm like, well, you never said that this is what it is. So how can I know what your boundaries are unless you establish them? And the ones I did, you follow them, but still people need to you need to take time to set boundaries. And I have to learn that. Everyone has to learn that some way or another, like it just is what it is. And none of we're set. And he is like overstepping. I mean, yes, I guess it could go without saying, but here's the perfect example. Out saying to a wife who's cheating and wants something discreet. Mm-hmm. Obviously, her boundaries are in her head what it should be. Mm-hmm. But to Adam, as a lover and found his muse and someone who lives freely and whatever, and love is the world, I must tell her and deny, or I can't deny this. I have to feel it. I want to be with you, like, and let me be your little, like, slave on the floor, kneeling and waiting till you come. That's not, like, he's doing all these things for her, probably, and my queen, here she is, and he's a valiant knight.
See, well, maybe, I guess that's one way of looking at it that I can grasp my mind around, because that's kind of how I look at a lot of these. I mean,
you're right too. I mean, I definitely see like that too, but you have to have that conversation.
Like, I agree.
To me, if I'm gonna,
so when it comes to Adam, okay, there's so many things, and I could probably make a whole video about this, but I don't know. But anyway, so I feel like Adam, like, number one, is he connected to Lottie? That's a really good question. I do think that there's something there. He has a friend in the Poconos with the cabin. He's trying to convince her to go. So number two, I don't think that those paintings were of Shauna necessarily. And I think that it is part of, and maybe this is just my own, like, I think that he has major mommy issues. And I think that this could all feed into like the Lottie thing. Like, if that could have been what directed him to Lottie's like commune, right? Okay. In my wildest fantasy, this is what I see. Adam went to Lottie's commune because
I can see that
died and he has mommy issues. Those paintings are of his mother. They're not actually of Shauna. But when he went there, perhaps him and Lottie became, interwoven with each other or what have you, or she just found this like therapy, because we see kind of the same thing with Walter and
hold on a minute. The paintings though, I gotta interject, because the paintings of his mother, I really like. I think this is totally on point. It could be 100% it. It's I love it. But the paintings were very sexual induced.
I felt they were more candid rather than sexual. Yeah, there was some sexuality to it.
A lot of nudity.
Mommy issues. He has some weird, fucked up mommy issues. And so he went to kind of seek therapy, do his therapeutic thing at Lottie's thing. Well, then perhaps he learned more about like Lottie's past. And then, or it might be that Lottie even uses the women, because if she's like drinking her own Kool-Aid, she may even be like, she may have deified the women in a way that we have not yet seen, to where she's using them in like an archetypical form in a sense, which could create like this whole, because there are the fanboys, the fan obsessives with the Yellowjackets and that kind of thing. And, we've talked about it so much with like the Greek overtones, they all kind of fit into these archetypes, right? And so Shauna being the mother, being connected to like Demeter and that archetype, like, that's where I find that it could be that Adam became obsessed with her as like a projection of his mother, right? Because men will do that kind of stuff, or just humans will do that kind of stuff. But those are just my thoughts. Okay. In my wildest fantasy, he became obsessed with her somehow via Lottie. And Lottie said, you need to go and, exactly like what you said, be her knight, be her whatever, bring her back to the hive kind of thing. Recruit my, and I think she did the same with Walter. I think she did the same with Travis, even with Nat, because all of those men are a way to draw them into the hive. right? To draw them back. And whether Lottie was consciously or unconsciously doing it, because I think she was unconsciously doing a lot of the things that she did at her commune, but sort of as the instrument, as we might say, of the wilderness. So that's kind of my wildest thoughts, though, and it could be completely off.
I mean,
so many, you guys know, I have so many thoughts about like Adam, Shauna, and like I don't know why I'm obsessed with their like dynamic.
I still want to say that he's her active imagination, and then she's got so much Jeff in it, or Jeff is even part of her active imagination. I mean, I don't know, it's crazy, but it's not a crazy theory, because this is the show. This is where it's brought us. It's brought us all these different connecting factors. The reality is that they're definitely 100%, 1000% Adam's more than what meets the eye, and more than just Shauna's victim at that point and a missing body. He was instigating, and we always thought so. And you know, whether CIA or artist or nobody Adam, or he's the Adam of man, you know.
The first man,
whether he's Leonardo da Vinci, like the Da Vinci, where his body's cut into like the set stuff, and the Egyptian pharaoh. Like, we have so many different theories about it. But I can see that energy for sure.
It's just a fun one to analyze for sure. Okay, so they're at Nat's hotel room. They're like, you know, considering maybe calling Jessica, Nat is like, yeah, let's call Jessica Roberts, let's bring her in. But then the other girls are like, no, that will literally just hand her what she wants on a silver platter. It just shows her we're like totally hiding something. So they depart, and they're just kind of like waiting to see what happens next.
Ty says no, because she's not wanting to be found out, and she gets really, really quickly irritable and frustrated. And no, are you dumb? Are you like? And she puts other people down, trying to defend and hide what she has done.
Very true, because I think
you covert narcissist dark triad, you Thaisa. I see you. I see you.
Well, and even Shauna says, like, I thought I told you to take care of Jessica Roberts, and then she just like busts out this pure lie. She's like, oh, I don't even remember what she says. She's like, oh, I threatened her with a lawsuit, and she, you know, went away or whatever. But it's like, no, she's just purely lying in that moment.
But meanwhile, Misty does exactly what Shauna says that they should do. Or Nat says she should do. And at that point, though, Misty is watching them here. Remember that. So is Misty following her queen?
Definitely. I think Misty, that's like all Misty's, that's her priority.
That's her job.
Yeah. She's like, this is what I do, is I look after Nat, and that's my most important duty. And
like with the shot too,
because like we see that scene, she's like stealing meds from work, and you know, she's ready. She's got her apartment down there that, you know, she's gonna take Jessica and lock her up in. So I love this. This is such a great scene.
Her queen makes a wish, makes a notion, and Misty follows through. And with the stinger.
Misty Stinger. She's so she's just so funny. She's so dramatic. She's listening to Phantom of the Opera.
I know.
She is too much. I love it.
Boom, bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. In night he ran to me. I love it too. It's so good.
All right. So let's talk about, we're going to talk about a sensitive subject. So and this is a very emotional episode with a lot of sensitive topics. So this is your trigger warning. This was a really emotional scene. So this is where Shauna decides she's going to end her pregnancy. And it's a really emotional scene. It's really like scary and vulnerable. And so she decides, you know, she packs up her little kit, which includes the sea breeze, which I thought was like kind of a funny thing. It's like Jackie symbolism there. But so she takes the underwire out of her bra, which she told tie that there was another girl in their school who had done something similar. This is a very, very, very dangerous thing. So like, do not recommend, do not do this. This is just very dangerous. And you can see her point and like the struggle she has with it, because she's terrified that if she does see her pregnancy through, that she's gonna die anyways, because she doesn't have care out there. She doesn't have anyone to help her. She doesn't have medications or like any like a hospital or anything. So it's kind of like, what's the lesser of two evils is sort of how she feels right here.
The OBGYN on call is Misty.
Yeah. And she doesn't feel very confident in that, unfortunately. So Shauna, she was going to just do it by herself. She goes out to the forest. She's like got her set up and she's going to try and do it herself. Thankfully, Thaisa finds her bra in the room and she's like, sees that the underwire has been taken out. So she frantically just starts searching through the forest to find her, and finally finds her right at the last moment. And she says, you're not going to go through this alone. I'm going to help you. And so they kind of start this procedure together. And then Shauna decides, she changes her mind. She changes her mind at the last moment. And she says, no, we're not doing this. I can't do this. I'm too scared. Yeah. And again, there's no right decision here, because, and especially knowing with how things end up regardless, is just like, this is just so tragic. It's so scary and just terrifying and really emotional. And she and Thaisa really come together, especially looking back to the first episode where they were like fighting and that kind of thing, to where in this moment they really come together and can cry and like bond, unfortunately, but like it really brings them together, and they have like a true genuine friendship. And we see that so many times with those two, where they do have like this they can be really candid with one another in a non-judgmental way, and they feel really safe with each other, which is really beautiful. They might not be the best of friends or agree with each other all the time, but they have like this trust in each other that they can say anything and the other person's not going to judge them. And one thing also I wanted to point out in this scene, Shauna's wearing green. Green is a color of fertility. So, it's just a little added layer here. So she decides she's not going to go through with it, and they hug. Yay. Hugging. Okay. Thoughts on this scene, Mandy?
It's a lot. I cry every time I see it, is really honestly. And then I have this like inner pain up inside of me every time I just even think about it. Mm-hmm. It's a lot, it's an abortion period. I can't even say the word. I don't know, but period is a lot of pain, suffering, hurt, inner wounds, inner, outer, all over the place. And it's a lot for anyone to go through, even in a safe environment and offered with safe ways to do it. It's very, very, very deep and affecting and wounding and hard for a person to go through. So I think that, and then choosing, even like she right there, she's damned if I do, damned if I don't. Mm-hmm. But she's at least the safer way is to try to make it through versus like, so she's deciding there, that's the way. But I think it was really important that they actually showed this scene. I think that it was something that a lot of young women can understand. I think that it's very beautiful how she had even lost in the wilderness this one friend who was willing to go the mile, but yet willing to stay the mile. Mm-hmm. So whether you keep it or not, it was just a hard scene. It's a hard scene for me every time I see it, or anytime I hear anybody having to go through it. And, there's never any judgments. There's just love. There's understanding. I have lost a baby too before, so I understand. And that's why I love so dearly the one I have now. It's just very, very impactful. And when you have to go through that, it changes your life.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
There's
and you can be hung out to dry, quote unquote. Either way, and maybe in your own mind and other people's minds, wherever, you just feel like you're hung out to dry regardless.
Yeah, and the hook symbolism in particular is very, like, you know, strong with Shauna in this episode, and we've talked about it so many other times, but also it being part of the symbol, you know, she's in that sort of lower state of being, and we see like she's sort of low vibrational anyways in her real life, and she contemplates kind of ascending that in this episode. But yeah, this is a really hard scene in general. And for me, like, when I saw this episode, this scene, I remember the first time watching it where I was like, it really solidified kind of my love and how serious this show can be taken, because yeah, there's a lot of like fun adventure, you know, whatever, but this is kind of the first real one of the really like serious scenes to where there's like real world questions and that kind of thing, versus just the adventure. So it really is kind of it's impactful on many levels. But for me, it really solidified. I was like, okay, this is like a serious show that's questioning really serious subjects besides just being on a plane crash and, you know, frolicking with our girlfriends. Trust me, I love the idea of frolicking in the woods with my girlfriends, you know, but like when you're faced with these harsh truths, that's like something it takes it to another level. So.
And I really do like, you know, the point that, she's not being judged here, that she's being able to be open, that she's being able to do this, and that she has a friend to help her through this is one of the most beautiful things here, because this pain, I mean, Sophie Thatcher, like not Sophie, but anyway, Jasmine Savoy Brown, look at her face here and just like the pain. She's scared, the relentless, but yet hopeless, but hopeful feeling that her friend isn't going to be hurt and that she's going to get through this. And then the other actress that plays for Shauna, I don't know why I can't think of her name right now. I have to look it up because I'm having a mind blank. Sorry, this is a very sensitive scene. Shauna's, someone in the chat, please. Shauna's actress. I should know this because give me 1 second. Shauna, teen actress. I don't want to mess up her name, even though I just did. Sophie Nestle. I need to learn how to pronounce names. But anyway, Sophie. I will not mess this up again. She blows my mind in this scene. The way she's crying, the hardship, how she cries when Jackie dies too. I felt it was very similar, and she's losing herself here. She's losing more than anything and gaining more than anything, but she knows that this pain is like something that she cannot just ignore. And I think that teen Shauna ends up ignoring a lot of that pain a lot. She, instead of accepting the pain and stuff she goes through, she just kind of dismisses it, or goes to her journal, or goes to other things to keep her busy, to not realize what she has to do. So this scene was really beautiful. This scene just, I think this scene deserves an award. It's just how she's crying, how they're there for each other.
Yeah.
Did you see? I totally mess up Sophie's name. I feel really embarrassed by it, but whatever. Sorry, forgive me. My head's like all this scene triggers, and it's my head.
I know. I'm sorry, and then I'm like, okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to be authentic with everyone who's following, the few of you guys that do, and I've decided to be authentic into myself, whether it's good or bad, is what it is, and that scene I can relate to. Yeah, I've been there.
You know, it's a harsh one to watch, and I think it will impact. I think it impacted people no matter who you are, or what your beliefs might be, your political beliefs. It's just a hard, because when you, and that's kind of the thing with the wilderness, you know, you're looking at everything through a different lens than through like societal standards. And so when you look at a situation like that, you can remove like your political lens from the situation, where you could be like, okay, let's be real. Like, she's in a survival situation. What's the right choice? You know, what's the better choice? Which again, I'm sure there's plenty of people that would tell you what the right choice is either way, but you know, it's tragic. It's the saints, you know. So all right. So
well, conveniently, when we talk about the saints that they feed their body, Shauna is being consumed by the baby. It's really the truth. Mm-hmm. So if you want to look at it one way or another, she does become a saint through this process, through this willingness to keep the baby, continue to let the baby consume from the inside out, continuing to do this. So this whole role on saints and everything we've mentioned up to this point, Shauna's being the saint here.
And there's even the scene with like Jackie and Shauna where you know, Shauna's feeling weak and she doesn't have enough nourishment, and Jackie offers her last bit of food, which is just, you know, shows that Jackie is really selfless. She cared, and this is before Jackie even knows about the pregnancy, you know, but she's willing to take care of Shauna and give her last bit of food. And that's just kind of the person that she is, you know, even though she is a little bit of a she can be a little bit of a it girl, or, you know, a little bit of a mean girl. She's also extremely selfless, and she loves Shauna and would give her, you know, the shirt off of her back or her last bit of food kind of thing. So
that being said, though, let's roll it into this scene, because Jackie's that way because she's been conditioned by her narcissistic mother, who has trained her to be that way. And Jackie is a codependent. End of story. She's codependent like this. And you see her during this whole Mrs. Taylor during this whole scene is just talking about everything and anything. Her husband hardly says a word except for, oh, she's a good daughter. Like, oh yeah, she's a good girl. Like, and then even trying to make Shauna, or Shauna's daughter, her daughter now. It's just, you know, she makes Shauna, gives her gifts. Here's a gift, because like birthday isn't a gift without, or it's not a birthday without a gift. And Jackie comes to her, why are you here, Shauna? Why? So there's a whole twisted realm of narcissism and codependency and controlling going on here that is just, wow. It blew my mind. And even Shauna being offered Callie's education, Shauna says no. But is that not controlling? To me, that was the exact kind of narcissistic controlling, because instead of getting a free education for your daughter, Shauna, I feel, says no. Why? Not only because she says that she hates Callie, because she's controlling and wants the fact that Callie can't have what I didn't have.
That's a really good point.
That's how I saw that.
That's terrible and also really good.
Well, you want to know why? Because my mother did that to me.
Yeah.
The exact same thing. I had a full ride scholarship. My mother took it away. And that's because she's a true narcissistic controlling parent. And then that's what I read underneath that. And it happens. These things happen more than you know, because what happens is that they find this situation. They're like, well, I never had that. So they get jealous of their own daughter. And then they don't want their daughter to succeed or get a rise or be better than them, which, if you're a parent, that's all you should want for your children. To give them the better life you never had.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. And, you know, Mrs. Taylor, she's such a contradiction here anyways, because she's like, well, the fact of the matter is you can't be remarkable and be a good mother or something like that. But at the same time, she's offering to pay for Callie to go to college and pay for her to create a better future for herself. And so, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting thing. Like, Mrs. Taylor, she's definitely like, you can see Jackie's ability to make a compliment kind of definitely comes from her mother, because where it's like anytime she goes to compliment Shauna, it's like an insult, compliment, insult. That's like the structure of the conversation. And so and thankfully, Jeff finally sticks up for her, because there's a lot of things too that Jackie's parents are unaware of, and one of the things that's come out in the scripts was that that they told everyone that Jackie died during the plane crash. Not, I mean, obviously they're not going to tell them, oh, we ended up, eating her and that kind of thing, or we froze her out and then we ate her. Like, no, they basically just told everyone that she died in the plane crash. And I don't know, looking like we don't have all the information of like what was found at the site. Obviously Jackie's bones are going to be in a much different condition than like the other people who actually did die in the plane crash.
Did they use her bones? Didn't they make a soup?
No.
Where did I get that from?
So Misty suggested that they should have.
Oh, okay.
Or actually it was Crystal, but that probably would have been a good idea.
I don't know. Okay.
Because you would think the bones would be like very incriminating. I mean, maybe if they buried them, but you would still think like with the Donner Party,
they gnawed the meat off of the bones. So
yeah, I don't know.
Like, but still, like you wouldn't be able to
analyze that kind of stuff. They were analyzing the bones and seeing like there. Yeah. So, anyways, there's like forensics for cannibalism.
Yeah.
So,
but still, like it would be too messed up for you to be even to tell at that point, because all the decay and surrounding environment and the length of time and animals, there probably would be nothing left, most likely.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on how like soon they were analyzing the scene. I don't know. It's a really good. That's something that hopefully they won't leave out. Because like if you have studied any, like if you've studied the Donner Party or any of these like the guys in the Andes Mountains, where there's like the aftermath of them being found and like the people like kind of examining the site where they were at, and just sort of, because like when they found those guys in the Andes, they came to them and they're like, how did you guys survive? And then the guys are just sitting there and they're like, well, we like ate our friends, like they were just straight up about it. And so, I don't know. Anyways, there's got to be some forensics that are involved. This is the 90s and that was in like the 70s, and the Donner Party was in like the 1800s. So, there's just like, you would think that the site would be scoured very well. Who knows? Hopefully we'll get answers.
Well, with the birds and wild and wilderness and the bugs, I mean, there's so much beyond it with forensics, and even bugs alone and just the site of decay. It would be messed up.
Very good point.
Flesh would be messed up.
And stuff.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Sorry, the kids are waking up. All right. Okay, so let's try and get through this. All right. So one of the big things that happened, they have their yearly dinner. They give Shauna the gift of the bunny, which the bunny is so funny because Shauna is like, like she's like, Jackie loved rabbits. But meanwhile, there's the flashback of Jackie being like, what even is a rabbit? It's just like two floppy ears and a puffball on their ass or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is funny, like
pom-pom.
Mm-hmm. Which I just laugh because that scene always like gives me such Daenerys Targaryen vibes, because she always talks about having to draw on her floppy ears, is what she says, where she basically has to go and like be the queen and lead the people and that kind of thing, and just sort of play the part that's not really her true self. And I think that's so perfect for Jackie, because she's memorialized for all these reasons, remembered for these reasons that aren't actually her. Her mother's like, oh, she loved rabbits, and she gives a rabbit to Shauna every single year, but didn't like rabbits at all. So it's
yeah,
she's being deified. She's a saint for like, you have to wonder, like when we think about other saints and like their little like imagery, symbolism stuff that goes with them, it's like, oh, did any of them even like those things, or was that really truly who they were, kind of thing? So, anyways. So yeah, so Shauna, she finally is like, oh my God, I have to get out of here. So she goes up to Jackie's room and she has these like flashbacks and she's looking at Jackie's journal, and we're gonna go through some of these journal entries.
Let's do it.
A lot of speculation about journals, and sort of the stuff that's written in them, and a lot of people speculate that like some of these songs and these movies didn't actually come out until after the girls had crashed, right? They all seemed like they came out in 1996, but well, and it's funny, it's in 1996. The girls like crashed in May. Yeah, and so it's like you're only going to have that catalog of 1996, January through May or what have you. Beyond that is a bit, filling in the blanks, right? So
the Give Me One Reason by Tracy Chapman. Actually, I was thinking about that for Thaisa. Thaisa's parody for Van. Give me one reason to stay here. Yeah.
Yeah, I just heard them knock. Yeah, we've got the Spice Girls, we've got the Fugees, Mariah Carey, Morissette, of course.
What's the number 5?
What's that?
What's number 5? I can't read it.
LL Cool J.
Oh, okay.
Smashing Pumpkins, Oasis.
Because you loved me.
Or wait, Because You Loved Me Twice by Celine Dion, twice in a row. That's number.
Oh.
Or maybe they just wrote.
No. What's it say?
Hold on. What did we just
Something
find?
You Loved Me.
7 is Wonderwall. 8, Because You Love Me, Celine Dion. 8, Because You Loved Me, Celine Dion. Why did they put that twice? 8?
Oh.
What the hell? Did we just discover this?
We did. And actually, so I was like, so I have like I'm really gonna start this parody stuff, but I was looking at that song actually too. This is great. This is money.
Love me. Ooh.
Wait.
Okay. One thing I noticed.
You were my strength when I was weak. You were the presence that wait, isn't that it? How's it go? Yeah, right?
I can't remember.
I'm everything I am because you love me.
One thing I noticed about this
for you, I care for you.
This is the MASH game that Shauna and Jackie play in season 2 when they're in the meat shed and they're playing MASH, and she's like, oh, Shauna, you're gonna marry Jeff and you're gonna like be just like your mom, and all those things that she says. You're gonna have $1 million. That's this page, which Jackie was writing in that scene. Jackie was writing, but really, like, there's so much kind of confusion, convoluted stuff.
Go back though. Like, who's Nick? The boys she's gonna marry had Travis and Coach Scott. Travis, Jeff, Coach Scott, Travis, and then Nick. Who's Nick?
Oh, interesting. Who is Nick? Mystery man Nick. Bring him in. Bring him on the cast. It's Nat's chubby friend that shows his tits.
Sydney Prescott.
Yeah, so we've got Rose Dawson, Cher Horowitz. I loved Clueless. I don't know about you guys. And I loved State of Sultan Fest. I think we talked about My Girl. Weren't we talking about with the bees? Because there's a lot of shared kind of stuff in Yellowjackets with My Girl. I loved My Girl growing up. That was like my favorite. Okay, Thomas J. forever.
Yeah, well, she has that on one of the pages. Like, I remember seeing that, like, my dream.
Yeah. So, and a lot of these movies also, it's like,
American Beauty.
I swear to God, that was on in 96. I feel like that was like 98, 99.
Well,
anyways.
Torrance. Torrance.
So, like, a lot of these are like, not necessarily in 1996 or even after the fact, after the plane crash. So it's like, I did find this interesting.
There it is. JTT. Go back. JTT.
Oh.
JTT. Woo!
JTT. Handsome gentleman.
You so sexy. He's sexy now too. I've been looking at a recent picture of him and I was like, ooh. Little grays going on. Great. You know that nice little salt and pepper.
Oh my God, bring him on Yellowjackets. Please make him someone's boyfriend.
I know.
Okay. We need JTT. Like, don't get me wrong. I love Walter, but bring JTT on. Come on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's no one better than Walter ever anymore in my life. It's just the bees, honey.
Yeah, exactly. He's got that Hobbit appeal. Like, he has a whole audience of Hobbit loving women that will.
First off, no, Hobbit. Who the hell is that? I don't even know who that is anymore. After Walter came into my life, like, do you understand that I will never make Elijah reference to the Hobbit first ever again?
Oh, come on, it's Mr. Frodo.
He will never. That's his secondary act. That's a secondary role in my life. He's always Walter.
I do. I Walter love Elijah Wood. Like, I can't. He's just fantastic. It doesn't matter. He has my whole heart. Bringing him on Yellowjackets was just like chef's kiss. I love it. And anyways, I could talk about him all day. We could do a Walter. We should do a Walter stream. Let's do a Walter stream one of these times.
He's the better character. Walt Haversham.
Yep, Walt Havisham, our wealthy benefactor. Okay, so movies. We've got Fear, The Birdcage, The Cable Guy, Romeo and Juliet. Hell yeah, that's always an excellent one. Jumanji, Scream, Striptease, Matilda. I loved Matilda. The English Patient, and The Craft.
Well, The Birdcage is like by far one of my all-time favorite movies. Yeah. Well, first off, I'm a Miami girl, so 305, hello, represents. And then beyond that, I love Robin Williams, and that movie is just one of the best movies ever.
I think like the wording, it reminds me of Lottie, that photo of Lottie, or where she's like watching, her family, or just like the idea of her being like a caged bird, which is kind of similar to Lottie. I mean, similar to Jackie in a sense, because it's kind of like her floppy ears.
And Striptease too, like that for these girls, probably they didn't know.
Yeah, like
Matilda's probably one of my favorites too. Jumanji, I just watched that with my kid.
Sneaking downstairs, just like The Color of Night, she's going to watch Striptease and have her homoerotic fantasies that she's not telling anyone about in the middle of the night.
First off, that hits me way too hard. Why are you watching me?
Am I calling people out right now?
That's like, too true. And then let's give it up for Showtime with the late night. Okay, hello.
Yeah, with the squiggly lines. All right, so I did find this awesome article from, I don't even know what it's from, but basically it's an interview with Ashley Lyle and Bart Nickerson. And so the interviewer asks, so I have another question. There's a scene when Shauna is at Jackie's parents' house and she sees these journals we assume are written by Jackie that refer to movies that came out after the crash. Were those supposed to be things Jackie had written, or is this, again, a perception thing? And Ashley says they were not meant to be things that Jackie herself had written. And the interviewer asks, okay, can you say more than that? And Bart says, I think we've said it other places. Again, it's just so hard because I don't think we want to tease it as a secret, but it's not necessarily a big plot reveal as much as it is a character piece idea, but it could be distracting to leave it. And Ashley said, I will say, we did not necessarily anticipate people screenshotting it the way they did. So to our minds, it was a character Easter egg and not a plot Easter egg. Shauna at some point does return from the wilderness, as we know, because we see Melanie Linsky. So we felt like we could potentially dramatize her initial experience of that survivor's guilt. And we thought there was something really compelling to us, at least, about this ritual of having to go to Jackie's parents' house every year and be this surrogate daughter figure to them, while having this intense feeling of complicity in Jackie's death. what would that be like for her? How would she manifest those feelings of guilt? And so again, it's something we didn't fully dramatize this season, and we did not necessarily anticipate people locking onto those very, very tiny details and then assuming Jackie is a time traveler.
So that's really interesting because, like, I don't think I knew this, but now that you say that, it just instinctively, I think about the word pining again. Here we are, is that she holds this guilt in her heart and she's literally staying in this remorse, staying in this pining over her brokenheartedness about Jackie. And then, with that being said, some of these things she combining their Jackie with her cannibalizing into some of these ideas that this would be her and Jackie's favorite together. That's interesting. That's cool if they did that. The cannibalism of Jackie made it this particular movie. Because probably they would fight over the movie. Like, it's something like they would be like, oh, I feel like for example, Jackie would say Jackie would say Jumanji, but then Shauna would be like, oh, it's overplayed and blah blah blah, and like, but together they're gonna pick Jumanji.
Well, it's funny, and especially thinking about on that list where it was the 2 number 8s, it's almost like indicative of like a split personality kind of thing. And I always think about Shauna in season 2 when she's with the other girls and she's like, well, if I blocked anything out, I don't even want to remember. And it's like, okay, like, you had so much to like the whole time with Shauna and Jackie in the meat shed where you're like, what was really going on? And obviously the journal entries were part of that. So yeah, we can just imagine that she's having some sort of experience in there to where she's playing MASH. And, when you have games like that, where you could almost like, I don't know, you're filling out the things and then you can almost come up with like a way to where you could play it one-sided, but pretend you're playing a 2-sided game, It's really messed up. Poor Shauna.
Story of my life.
She really lost it there.
It is. She just goes and does the suffering because she feels like she has to, but she doesn't have to. And I think Jeff was so great in this scene because he's like, we don't have to be here. Do you want to go? Let me remind you. Let me remind them how smart you are. Let me remind you. Aren't you genius? Aren't you this person? Shauna, you are amazing, and like it is a trauma. It's like a trauma bond. It's literally a trauma bond that she puts herself in every year, continues to do it. Again, why are you here?
Why are you committed to doing this she is almost like returning to the scene of the crime in a sense, or just like she feels so obligated to do this thing, this ritual. This is her Eleusinian mystery or something like that,
You just killed me though when you said returning to a scene of a crime, because most serial killers do return to the scene, or most people like returning to the scene of the crime is a little bit more different than trauma bonding. It's a little more intense and psychopathic.
Well, yeah, and I mean, especially considering like if Jackie's parents are literally living their lives under the assumption that their daughter died in a plane crash. But meanwhile, there were months of her life that went on after that, that did end super traumatically, detrimentally, but like no one's even telling them about that. And that's like really, really sad and like really kind of messed up. And so yeah, when we could say like returning to the scene of the crime, maybe that's actually, maybe Shauna feels that guilt, that
or maybe it's more right, and maybe it's better correct. Maybe it's, to me, when you said it, I was like, damn, that's deep. Because it is. It's very psychopathic tendency nature. More than trauma bond, more than this. It is what she's literally doing. And then she puts up all the like mementos too. She puts up the bunnies. She like, and then she kills the bunny in episode 1 where she's like, I gotta kill this, it's very deep and very true.
Pretty messed up.
It's very true. Speak the truth, baby.
Mic drop. All right. So the last character that we have to
look at her room is pink and green too. Is that not, that's that like 1990s green?
And it's so similar to Callie's room too. Like, I don't think I have a picture of Callie's. Let me look.
Oh man, we gotta put it side by side. It is, isn't it?
I have a picture.
You're right. Room. Look at the lights on the thing. I just tried to put lights up earlier, but they weren't showing, so I threw them off. But the Christmas lights on her bed. She has that beautiful 1990s room. I remember, like, when I was a little girl, this was the style.
I'm gonna look. Yeah, the wicker and stuff. I remember I had like friends who my best friend had like that room set up. Thankfully, my mom didn't do that to me, but my mom was poor. I had like Shauna's room set up. Hold on, I'm just looking up really quick. I want to see.
Yeah, so speaking of cannibalism,
here we go. Here's a perfect picture.
My Jeffrey Dahmer glasses on today. I feel like I look like Jeffrey Dahmer every time I wear my hair and these glasses and my sweatpants.
All right. I'm doing things over here. I'm making moves.
All right, let's do it.
I'm making moves. I'm making things happen. Where did you save to?
Because you love us.
Share this tab.
Oh, it is very much alike.
Very similar. It's the white. There's like, I think, does Callie have a wicker? Is this like a wicker kind of mirror? Anyways, just the pinks, the colors. It's funny.
Everything.
The setup, the dresser, the desk, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Crazy. There's so many parallels with these two. I thought of one that I wanted to tell you guys, and now I can't think of it. I mean, I've thought of like 10 since the last episode, just because just more layers to like those two and the Halloween costume and all of that fun stuff. I don't know. All right. So the last character that we have to discuss today is the lady in the tree.
Taissa.
So Ty, never a dull moment with Taissa. So she is, doing her Taissa thing. So Ty, there is that lovely moment with her and Van, and they're like having the bath together. They sneak out and have a little midnight bath time together, which is super sweet. And Ty says, she says she wants to get out of there. She's like, I'm going to find a way out of here for us. She's tasting dirt. She's getting familiar with their surroundings. She's like, I'll find my way back home. Let me just eat a little bit of this dirt. No, but, yeah. So, and Van is like, you're insane. You're not going to just take off into the woods and find your way out. But, Taissa is the kind of person that like, when she's under duress, she makes moves. She's not going to sit back and wait for things to happen to her. She wants to get ahead of everything and be sort of the puppet master in a sense. So we do have this moment where Lottie, she actually wakes up because she hears like a scratching outside, and she goes out there and she finds Ty, and Ty's like eating dirt and just sort of in her fugue state. And the next morning, Lottie asks her, were you like eating dirt last night? And she's like, I don't have time for crazy. But it's like, look at you, Taissa. So pretty freaky stuff. But anyway, so that's kind of like it with her as in the younger timeline. She says she's going to go. She's going. Oh, after basically all the stuff with Shauna happens, she's like, nope, I'm out of here. And also with the deer, because they do, Natalie and Travis do get a deer. They come back with it, but it's just rotting, which is also a callback to like Shauna, in my opinion. She like cuts the deer open and it's just rotting maggots inside of her. So anyways, but Taissa says, no, I'm going to find a way out. I don't care. I don't care if there's mountains and wilderness all around us. I'm going to walk and eventually I'll find something. And so that's kind of her big decision. And we see like, yeah, she just she's not going to sit around and wait for stuff. She wants to get ahead of things. She doesn't want to be the victim of things. She's she's a mover and a shaker and trying to always be in charge of her destiny in a sense. Any thoughts, Mandy?
Yeah, I mean, this whole eating dirt thing, it's like pika, or there are tribes and people who do that. It's also in famine situations. They have done that. It's a way to get nutrients in soil, but also you can get parasites. So the whole worms thing, and then that kind of triggers her. Meanwhile, she's over there eating dirt, which can actually give you parasites. Kind of was like, oh, isn't that a catch-22? But I think that there's more to it. You know, it's also like a sense of control, like with OCD people. Like, it's really, it's not an unheard of behavior for people to make like mud pies. It's actually a thing, mud pie, to help keep you at least going, but it is weird.
I mean, I guess, you know, when we consider like her goddess symbolism being connected to Hecate, and she's a goddess of the crossroads, so there's sort of like that path, guiding the path, you know, that sort of thing. Like, it's just kind of interesting. The dirt thing is a little funny, but it's like connecting her to the earth, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, there are some health benefits even people put today with it, and because you do get nutrients if you're lacking the nutrients out of it. But you know, it's definitely something that is not given that much realm to, or criticized.
Could you imagine finding like anyone, any of your friends, just like the way she, I mean, this scene, she does such an excellent job of like acting it out, because it's like, damn, dude, like she looks really like crazed. I love it.
Yeah, this is really quite the scene, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, there are ways to do it, but there are ways that could be less hip, less criticized. I mean, but this is like all out, all or nothing. And then this shows her dissociation, and then that's the other thing that gets to me, is this whole dissociating thing when she's going with her son. All of the symptoms are symptoms of herself. Like, she dissociates. She's the one who has incredible stress to the point, and this is what OCD happens sometimes. You dissociate. They do eat dirt a lot of times. It happens, and she's very much that person. So it's interesting that how she ends up like projecting all this onto her son, and then she doesn't even she denies it for herself, then she denies it for her son, and then she denies it in general. She's like, that's not right, that's not true. No, they don't know what they're doing. And she comes up with all of these kind of scenarios like, oh, they just want to make money off of you, that's what they want. Versus accepting shit like that's the true path of the covert. The covert narcissist, the covert just is denied. They literally are their prefrontal the prefrontal brain. It's not developed enough for them to realize, so they dissociate, and then they deny everything. They deny, and they lie, and they'll do something right away, right in front of you, and they'll be like, I didn't do that. What are you talking about? I didn't do that. Like, they genuinely choose. Yeah, no, but like it's what's the word I'm looking for? They'll associative amnesia, or like they decide what they want to forget, or sometimes they don't even know that they're doing it, or they'll do stuff. You're like, I literally just saw you do that. No, I didn't. What are you talking? You're crazy. I don't have time to talk about crazy right now. They'll just deny you, dismiss you, and that's exactly what she does. And it drives me crazy, because I've been there and I've done that, and I have to deal with that kind of covert narcissistic abuse. And you see them right there, and you'll be like, you're eating dirt. I said, literally saw you eating dirt. No, you didn't. What are you talking about? You're crazy.
Yeah. I think that,
I think they're doing a good job showing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, the eating dirt, that scene is like such a perfect image of like the inner chaos of her narcissistic like exterior, right? Because Ty always appears like she has it so put together, and that's like her narcissism, right? She's so perfect put together, she's such a role model, yada yada, but then inside, this is what she truly is inside of her. She's chaotic, she's eating dirt, she's unhinged. She's, there's a chaos monster inside of her. Not necessarily like
coverts. There said there'd be fogs of lies, like fogs of dissociation, like fogs of chaos that you literally just don't know what time it is, don't know when, don't know where and how. Like you don't know what day it is. Like same with Shauna not knowing. Do you think it's Monday? You don't know what day it is anymore because of your dissociation in the fog. And that's something actually that stood out to me here too, because that happens. And that happens to me during the abuse I went through with that. And like the reason I say and share all these things and I get so vulnerable and authentic in sharing, because I've been through these things and I also have exhibited some of these things because of the conditioning and stuff. And it's something that we all need to work on. And so please don't judge me based on these things. I just want to share experiences because Yellowjackets is the greatest show to me because they show you these things and they're making these in real life, relatable and story like ways that we can see these behaviors and actions and be like, well, this is like this. In fact, I didn't even know half of this stuff was happening until I was like accused somebody. I'm like, you're acting just like Shauna. And I started Googling like, why do they do the opposite of why does a person do the opposite? Why does it do this? And then I started learning all about this, something that I knew nothing about. And I'm like, damn, this is too true. This is too real. This dissociation here in the car, even they're the drivers of their own lane and seats. And
I love when you say that, and now I'm so conscious of the driving scenes because I'm like, oh, this is so interesting because like we had the scene also in this episode with Jeff's the driver. And that's when he's trying to like, he's talking about like how much he loves Shauna and like, their life that they've built together. And then that's also when Shauna's like trying to decide, oh, should I, stick this out or should I text Adam back kind of thing. So that's when she's struggling with it. And she ultimately makes that decision when Jeff says he's going to deal with the inventory database, which is really him going to do the blackmail stuff. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. But that's when she makes that decision. So anyways, but the driving and then also with Misty later, Misty says, oh, come meet me, Jessica. And she's the one in the driver's seat, so there's
a lot of the driver's seat it's very, and they do it so subtly. And I think we should actually make a video about this because I started notes about it, but it's very, very true because in the driver's seat, when the narcissist takes the driver's seat, you see it's very clear who's driving, and the gaslighting is a sign for Ty with all the light stuff too. So,
and are
you gonna run out of gas?
Yeah. A lot of foreshadowing in this scene also because like with the car accident later with Simone in season 2, but they almost hit that biker in this scene. They almost crash into a guy on his bike. And so it's just, it's kind of crazy. But yeah, so Taissa, she's basically, so in the last episode, she just lied bold-faced to Simone and she was like, oh, I'm going to quit the, the whatever politics, quit the politics. And so she called the press conference and then she just flipped her script in the middle of it. So Simone is still angry with her. She's still kind of trying to pick up the pieces. Simone took, she's like, we have an appointment. We're taking him to the child psychologist. This is happening. Be there or else, if this is really about us. And you see that like with Taissa where she's like, I did this for us. Like that moment where it's so fake. She's like, well, I just saw you guys. And like, it's like the fake kind of crying that she does is so.
It was terrible. First off, she comes in the room. Sammy's in the middle of eating breakfast before he has to go to school. If you're a parent, what parent isn't like, eat your breakfast. We got to eat your breakfast. We got to go to school. None of that matters. Sammy, can you go in the other room? I have to have a grown-up conversation. It's all about what she wants to do because she's getting the guilt. She's feeling the shame. She's feeling like she should have done something. And she did mess up really big. She messed up huge. You can hear her voice change even when she's talking about the money. Like her voice pitches up. The voice change happens. But when she says this to Simone, Simone's like just kind of gives her a look like, be there or we'll see. Like she's right through the bullshit. She sees right through it. And Taissa makes it, oh, it's about us. And here's all my justifications and lies for me being just a selfish person and doing exactly what you told me not to do for me messing up, but she doesn't even think she messed up. That's the point. She didn't mess up. To her, she's going to find every justification, every reason, every whatever, never deny. She's never going to take any self-acknowledgement or self-blame. She doesn't. She says, oh, it was because you did this. You wanted that. We wanted this. It wasn't because I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. No, she will never, ever put any blame on himself. And that's what covert narcissists do. That's what covert dark triad people do. They have no sense of self. They have no ideal of self-acknowledgement. They blame everything on anybody else or justify on everyone else. Hey, why did you call? Why did you leave me and your son here? And then you go out with this person. Well, this person called, and never mind that I left you guys alone on a holiday on your birthday or your whatever. Mm-hmm. This person called. What am I supposed to do? It's your son's birthday. You're supposed to show up and be there.
Yeah.
Why are you even answering that person? But no, they're not going to do that. They're going to self-project. It's always someone else, no matter what they do. Mm-hmm. And you can clearly see this in all of Taissa, everything she does, everything she says. Mm-hmm. It's kind of sickening to me because I've been through this abuse and I see it and it's triggering and sickening. But I also have to give props to the actresses because they do such a really good job displaying it. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, they really do. And, just like the psychological torment that Sammy must be under, at this point to where, they're taking him to this psychiatrist and she's like, and all the things, and I think you said this before, but all the things that the psychiatrist is saying is wrong with Sammy are really the things that are wrong with Taissa. And, she even says it's caused by tremendous stress. And obviously Taissa has tremendous stress on her, whether from the campaign or whether just from like the constant lies that she's keeping and creating to sort of build this life up around her. And the light that's being shown upon her because of her campaign and the prying eyes trying to find out more. What happened out there? What really happened out there? And that's got to be putting a crazy amount of stress. Meanwhile, she's also still lying to her teammates about all of that anyway. So it's like she's creating all of the storm, the pressure that she's feeling are all created on her own. Like she's creating all of that stress and then being 100%. Like, I'm so stressed out. It's like, girl, And
that's what they do. That's covert narcissism 101. That is what they do. They are living a lie of self-projections that they have told everybody and their circle of friends or circle of life that they have to be this way. And they're not. That's actually usually the opposite. And what they're doing is most of the projections that she says, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. They're self-projections. When they attack you for some reason, it's because they do that most of the time. Honestly, it's weird, but it's proven and it's true because they all have similar narratives, and we see this now as the awareness is more and more throughout this. But again, it's the prefrontal cortex. There's certain lobes and things in the brain that just do not connect. They are literally wounded, and during the child development ages of their brain. And during this age and phase, when they got into all of this, the accident and the huge traumatic experience for them. Sorry, I hit my mic. I'm getting a little bit over. But the traumatic things that they went through caused their prefrontal cortex not to develop the way that they should. And so these neurons in their brain are not connecting. So that's why they're so quick to deny, dissociate, to eat dirt. They're literally not wired anymore to think or to be self-aware. So that's why they're so worried about what other people are doing, and even or denying any kind of implication that they could be at fault or that they might cause stress or that they might be the issue, because to them they're perfect, everyone else is the issue, period. And even when it's a doctor trying to help, she's gonna say, oh, well, they don't know what they're talking about because they said that, oh, I might do it. No, well, they don't know anything. Well, okay, let's see.
They make money by not making us better. And it's like, dude, I think everybody would love for you to be better. I don't think anyone's going to try and exploit you for money, Taissa. You have a real...
Except for politicians.
Yeah, maybe there are, yeah, exactly. Like people want those answers, but also like that's part of it. She can't go and get treatment because if she does, she's gonna have to admit those things. And
they will never.
Things also like thinking about Lottie and all the therapy that she did, we don't really know like what she has admitted to or like, told therapists. And we know like, and we talked about this a lot where she has kind of, she convinced herself, as we've learned in season 2, where she believes that none of that was real. She kind of comes out with that. She's like, well, none of that was real. None of those things really happened. And so she's kind of combating that delusional state of maybe convincing herself that she was just crazy. And so none of those things actually happened. Whereas Taissa knows those things happen. But if she goes and seeks treatment, part of that treatment is going to be having to admit to all of those things. And she's so locked away to where she would never admit those kind of things. It's almost like a self-betrayal if she were to come to terms with like the truth of reality,
It's interesting you say self-betrayal because it's exactly that, but but in essence it's not, because what it is there's no sense, there is no self. There is no self in them. There is no self realization. There is no true self. Everything they do is a copy, a ploy, or an act of the world around them for them to fit the circumstances. But it's never ever the true self, and it's never looking inward. And yes, they will not look inward. They will not have acknowledgement. They will not say, this is what I've done. It's what you have done that put me off.
Definitely.
And that the real them is not the real them. The real them is just a projection of what the world expects.
Yeah,
social conditioning.
Her real self is her alter, and then the self that she projects to the world is emulating
the real her
is what people want, because she loves to do that and be that face of whatever it is, that face of the campaign, that kind of thing. But her true authentic self is her alter. Her alter personality or what have you. And
Lottie, see, this is the thing about Lottie, and I like what you just said before, because Lottie is all about finding your authentic self. She is, and that's what season 2 and her compound and with the golden box and the different scenarios that they're doing are like Carl Jung and about finding your authentic self. And this like golden box, or this the room, the realm, the tabernacle is what it really is that golden box inside of you, which has its own layers in itself. We've talked about this before.
Well, and who's the most person who's trying to have Lottie, locked back up in the asylum and that kind of thing? It's Taissa, because it, she can't subscribe to Lottie's treatment plan
without. There she was. There was a golden box with the FU on the board when she's painting.
Yep.
But
God, there's so much to it. Like even when those little simple moments seem like they're just, in passing or funny, it's like they all have like a deeper meaning.
Every single word in the show has a deeper pining against our thoughts and hearts. Literally. And it's so good. But there's no self accountability in her, period, which is why she dissociates. Then why the inner self is coming out, because what happens is that consumes you, and it is tiring. It's tiring. Oh, well, Taissa, I went to Brown like I said I would, like I was told to do. Or she went to this, oh wait, was it Brown or Yale?
I think she went to Columbia.
Yeah. But like I was planned to, like I said I was. Oh, I'm gonna be the face of the LGBTQ movement. I'm gonna be the face of this. Like I have to be the picture perfect light beacon. It's exhausting. It is truly exhausting to be someone else and to just have to fit these narratives that everyone else gives you. And then that's why
she's not looking after herself, because Simone has said, you're not eating, you're not sleeping, where were you last night? Why weren't you in bed? So she's not taking care of herself. But there's just those primal urges are coming out. And, there's always the question of like, is she sort of intentionally doing it. I don't know. Taissa is
she doesn't even know she's doing it. That's the thing, is like, they do not know. Covert narcissists and covert, they do not know because they're so used to just doing that, or they deny it. They'll deny themselves everything.
It's just pure chaos.
It is true. It is truly an agent of chaos. And if people call them literally men of the devil, because they're just seek to destroy. It's chaos all the time. They undermine, they devalue, they dissociate, they dismiss everything you say. They don't even say your name. It's so bad. They will not call you.
That's what she's doing to Sammy. I mean, she's blaming him for all these irrational things that she's doing. And yeah, in this final moment of this episode, like they get the call, the blackmailer calls or whatever, and but Tai is out there. She's the lady in the tree. She's got a big bite mark on her hand. She's eating dirt, and she's all like looking like a wild woman out there. And I love that, you know, that this is her internal self versus the external, like fancy, beautiful, you know, woman that she puts forth. So it's really interesting. Yeah. It's a real, and this is the moment that we learn. I mean, we're not so good at like these revealing moments here on our stream because we've seen all these episodes, but this is the moment that it's revealed that Tai is the lady in the tree. And she's been the one that's basically been terrorizing her own son all this time, which is terrible for Sammy. I just feel so bad for Sammy. I just can't imagine terrorizing.
Well, Sammy has no voice. Sammy's like a hobby. Like, he has no voice. He can't even say what he wants to say, and he doesn't use his voice with his mom. He doesn't he doesn't answer her. Sammy, what did I say? Why did you? And he's very like, just looks down the floor and hardly says anything. Like, you can tell that's like a symptom of abuse right there. And he yeah, I feel terrible for him too. It's just, can't even imagine.
He doesn't even know. Yeah, because he feels like he's like, I think about that scene in House of the Dragon, okay, when Aemond loses his eye.
Oh my gosh.
You know, Viserys is yelling at him and he's like, who told you this rumor about the strong boys or whatever? And that moment he like looks at Alicent for a moment and then he goes, it was Aegon. And I always think of that moment with Sammy, because it's like, he's like, no, it's not you, it's the bad one. But he's like, it's like he's glancing at Alicent, like, you know that it's you, but you can't say the words, because how can you betray your own mother that way, you know?
It's a lot.
Heartbreaking.
So I saw in your notes the one thing about the berry bush, and then so we have to say, let's end with that one, I guess.
Well, yeah, so they're out, you know, it was when they were foraging, the younger timeline, they're foraging for berries, and Mari, like, she kicks the tree, which, by the way, I'm like, oh, she's kicking that leg. I'm telling you, that leg. There's something about Mari's leg, okay? But it's a chicken leg. It's gonna get munched on. And
then the van with
Van says, I would. What did she say? I could eat a mouse. I could eat the crap out.
I'd eat the crap out of a mouse.
Yeah, and Akila's like, gross. Poor too.
Poor Aquila. So
she'd eat the crap out of a mouse too.
This show,
I tell ya, puns upon puns upon puns.
There's so much. And yeah, I can't. I'm jonesing for season 3. I'm just like jonesing for anything. Actually, didn't they say there's going to be that episode in between though? Do we have any news on that?
I don't think we've gotten any updates on the Cabin Daddy episode. I don't know. I guess I'm guessing we will probably get more details about that, like, as we get closer to season 3, or they have kind of some more like stuff, information, timeline, something like that. Hopefully we'll get some updates soon. I don't know about you guys when you're guessing that season 3 is going to come. I'm kind of guessing probably 2025 is my best guess. maybe late 2024. That would be awesome. But I just kind of have a feeling that, trying to get everyone together, getting the filming process done, editing, all of that kind of stuff. My guess is early 2025. So maybe we'll get the Cabin Daddy special like next
well,
Christmas. He gave
I hope
us
it's soon because aren't we seeing now the winter things are starting to thaw out? So I'm thinking that they're going to start immediately this spring because there was time that things are written. Like, yeah, they weren't supposed to be written, but I'm sure that they're written. I'm sure that they're ready to go.
Like, we gotta get this written so we can actually film in spring. No, I think they film in a studio, but season 1 they filmed outdoor, like in the woods, but I think season 2 it was in the studio, but in Vancouver.
Yeah, there's timely things to it, and people. I think that with age and making people look the same, their age and all around, I think it's going to be happening quicker than we think. I'm hoping that they have it by fall.
I could be wrong, and hopefully
what's in my hair
it together as soon as they can, because there's I don't know if you guys are feeling it, but I'm feeling the lack of things on TV already from the strike aftermath. I'm like, oh, remember when there used to be stuff to watch? So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Hopefully,
to me, it's
the better. But of course, I know these things take time. Trust and believe. I know when you want it to be perfect and beautiful and all of that, take your time. I trust the process.
Well, there's a new one on Showtime called The Curse, which I'm into, and Fellow Travelers, which seems pretty cool. I just watched the first episode of Fellow Travelers, and The Curse. And The Curse looks pretty fun, actually. I think I'm gonna continue watching it. I think it's every Wednesday or something. It comes out. Let me look.
I'll have to check it out.
It has Emma Stone in it, and it's like a whole.
Isn't it like they're like house people or something? House remodelers?
Well, I don't know that much, but
I don't know.
Anyway, it's their new one, so that's what I'm gonna start watching personally. But yeah, to me, after Yellowjackets, I'm not even interested about any other show. I'm just
I'm in a dry spell right now, so if anyone has any suggestions, let me know. Or maybe I'll just be I'll try and work on some videos, and also let me know, if you guys want to see anything.
We have our 30 plus videos that we haven't done yet, so that's my fault. It's my fault, 100%. I take accountability.
I don't know about that. I don't know if I'd say it's your fault. Yeah, we all have. It's been a struggle all around, but we're getting there. Kids don't help, that's for sure.
No.
Yeah. But anyways, well, I guess we'll start wrapping things up. We're going to be taking a couple weeks off just for the holidays because Christmas and New Year's Days both fall on Mondays, which are our streaming days. So we are going to take off the holidays, but we might try and do something close to New Year's, or maybe on New Year's Eve, maybe do an evening stream just for fun. Maybe a Walt Havoc stream. No. We'll save that one. I think that would be a really fun one to do. We should just do an Adam stream, a Walt stream.
We'll just do a shoot the shit. Yeah, we'll just shooting at stuff.
Exactly. Just like Nat, right?
Yeah,
looking all that shit. I'll find something to shoot.
Exactly. That should be it. There it is. That's it. Money, golden box of our life.
Yep. But we appreciate all of you guys, and we will be back on the 8th to discuss episode 7, which is called No Compass, which is a great title for the next episode that we will be off schedule covering. So anyways, whatever. I'm
January.
I don't know.
January.
Yes, January.
A great way to start the new year is an off compass.
Exactly. And getting lost in the woods and finding red rivers, I don't know. Whatever.
Sounds about right. It sounds actually just about right. Probably we'll all be on our periods then too. Who knows?
Wow.
Well, TMI.
We're conjuring the blood hive somewhere.
I mean, literally, if you don't watch a show, they're all scared away. If you watch a show, you're in it.
Exactly.
You get it.
If the ones who know, if you know, you know.
Jackie
all right.
out.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a happy holiday. We love you all. And we will see you back next year. Next year. All right. Have a lovely holiday. Bye, guys. Jackie out.